मेरो नाम दुर्गे गानी म फेदी खोला 3 देउरालीमा बस्छु
Perhaps he is the oldest student of Nepal.
उहाँ चाहिँ नि स्कुल आउनको लागि 2 घण्टा लगाउनुहुन्छ अनि हामीसँग खेल्दा यताउति हिँड्दा पनि साथी जसो नि हिँड्नुहुन्छ
Most of his ignorance, villagers, community persons, they also neglected to him and teases him.
त बौलाको होस् त सुले गएको होइन तेरो यो ठिक छैन भन्छन्
एउटा कुरा अब यस्तो बुढेसकालमा यस्तो गरेर नाति नातिना लिएर बस्ने बेलामा यस्तो गर्नुभयो भन्ने कुरा पनि लाग्छ हुन त अब आफ्नो सुर आफै गर्नुभएको छ खानु भयो दुःख सुख गरेर
बनामा साइली रैन था सारी भए साइली आउनी त्यो केही गरी
Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to go back and continue our conversation with Tim Pool, groundbreaking and innovator in social media technology, award-winning independent journalist. Tim, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, I wanted to have you back on because this continue our conversation. Fascinating stuff. You know, I'm 56, going to be 57 soon. I'm kind of pushing 60. You know, I'm a part of the end of the baby boomers. You're clearly in the millennials generation, which is the biggest generation since the baby boomers. So Generation X has kind of come and gone. You know, they really weren't a political factor. But the millennials are a political factor. And they were huge in this election, the 2016 Trump election, because of social media, which you were an innovator in that space. And I wanted to touch on that again. We were talking about the filter bubble, you know, and memes, and 4chan. And here's a meme for you. The New World Order and the anti-globalist. Now here's a meme that comes out of Austin, Texas. Comes out of Alex Jones. Yep. They were going to fight the globalists. A couple of years ago, that sounded like crackpot stuff. Yeah. But now I've got mainstream economists saying, well, you know, it's the New World Order we're fighting. The globalists need to be defeated. Donald Trump has made reference to the globalists and the global hegemony and things like this. Is that a meme that came out of the depths of the Alex Jones' subconscious and is now running the world, or what's going on there?
I think Alex Jones is a good representation for that feeling, you know, and he really captured that. I don't know if he made it, maybe I'm not old enough, but I have found a surprising number of alt-right millennials who are totally in line with that. But it's interesting to me because most of the millennials I know don't know much about economics and foreign policy. They don't quite understand Brexit. They don't quite understand TPP or NAFTA. And when I speak to conservative millennials, they seem to somewhat understand it. It seems like the older generation, at least on the Trump side, has been rubbing off onto the kids who are now supporting Trump. But I think the main reason, when I go to these Trump events, when I speak to the younger supporters, they're scared of this super lefty social justice stuff. They don't like it. And so Trump comes out and he talks about opposing political correctness.
Okay, the super lefty social justice stuff. Stacy made an excellent point earlier. Stacy.
Hi. Actually, I was asking because when I grew up, I was used to I used to get tired during political campaigns because it was all about the right-wing social stuff. Abortion, gay marriage, And now I notice that during elections, it's all transgender bathrooms and all these other sort of left-wing social issues. And none of the economic issues got mentioned at all.
It's crazy. I feel like we're in the outer limits. Somebody at the Twilight Zone, somebody said the other day, are we in an episode of Black Mirror? Because you've got everything flipped. You've got Hillary Clinton, the left, right, calling for conflict with Russia. And the left supporting that. And I'm like, whoa, I grew up with anti-war as being like a left thing. You've got Sean Hannity praising WikiLeaks on Twitter, and I'm like, when did politics invert? How is this so different? It's absolutely strange to see Hillary Clinton's email leak, where she says she wants an open borders, borderless West, free trade and all that stuff. Everything's sort of totally different now.
Now you mentioned Black Mirror, which is the Charlie Brooker series originating in the UK. It's now on Netflix, I believe. And of course, in the UK, you had Brexit, which was the precursor to the Trump win. So there's a lot of cultural back and forth between the UK and the US, has been, culturally speaking, in the music and the fashion. Are you, as the millennial generation, now understanding or reaching out, or is there any kind of dialogue between, let's say, Britain and the US, this generation talking back and forth?
Well, look at Milo Yiannopoulos. You familiar with Milo?
Yeah, Milo. I am familiar with Milo. Go ahead, talk a little more.
Well, Milo is a British pro-Trump alt-right. Some people call him a troll. A lot of people don't like him. He's been banned from Twitter. You've got Paul Joseph Watson, who is on InfoWars with Alex Jones. They're both British, and they've been saying a lot that they're trying to stop the U.S. from doing what the UK had done wrong. And so it's interesting to see these two high-profile guys. I mean, they both had, before Milo was removed, 300,000+ followers on Twitter. Paul Joseph Watson, 350,000 followers on Twitter. A lot of young Americans are listening to these British men about American politics. It's fascinating.
Now, on the political front, you have, on kind of the other end of the spectrum, you have a guy like Nigel Farage, who was an MEP in Brussels, but gave a lot of speeches, stood up and told everyone that they're all nuts in Brussels. But that got picked up by YouTube and then replayed by Alex Jones and Eric King, who has King World News, which is very conservative, and it goes out to gold bugs and gold investors. And yet it made Nigel Farage very famous in America. And then he's in America advising Trump about how to position himself for the 2016 election. But I don't think Hillary Clinton, if you asked her, who is Nigel Farage, she would have known who that name was, and she just recently learned who Alex Jones was.
Yeah. It's funny to see. I mean, it's funny to see her call him out by name. I mean, when I was growing up, Alex Jones was the 9/11 truth, the conspiracy theory guy. And now we're actually seeing a lot of people who are just average Americans. I see people at Trump's rallies wearing InfoWars shirts everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, they sound
Alex
like
Jones
crazy.
is the godfather of this type of meme warfare.
Yeah. Wow.
He's the Neil Young of the Twitterocracy.
The Donald supporters online refer to this as the Great Meme War.
Right.
And they have funny pictures of like someone made a fake memorial saying the Meme War 2015, 2016, and there's a Pepe the Frog crying, like they lost many great memes throughout the Meme War.
But in oppressed societies, you go back to like Soviet Union, for example, artists were banned, and icons and figures and symbols became underground symbols because of the prohibition against art and self-expression. And you see this, and so what's hard to understand is that America has become a similar dictatorship by bankers and kleptocrats, where what's needed is an underground movement where symbols like a Pepe the Frog is used. This isn't coming from a vacuum. This is what people do when they feel that they are oppressed and need to communicate outside of the traditional channels because they are prohibited from doing so.
It's like what we talked about earlier with the filter bubble. To see left-leaning news organizations complain that the right is wrong and lying and needs to be stopped, begging Facebook to do something about it, to me that's scary, because the left is not immune to those same problems, but they think they are. And so what ends up happening is these big news organizations go all in it for Clinton. She's going to win. Everybody says over and over again. I mean, there was a CNN article saying Trump had a 1% chance of winning the GOP, and now here he is, president-elect. And what happens?
6 hours before the election, the New York Times had 80% win for Hillary.
And it actually dipped down to 17% for Trump. It went down. But here's what, I spoke with a guy at a Trump rally in Leesburg, Virginia, just a few days ago before the election, and he said, where is all the crazy that the media has been showing? I don't understand. And he wrote an article for my site saying that he felt like he took a red pill by going to this event. The media tells you over and over again that you're wrong, that you're stupid, that you're racist, and then these people show up to these Trump rallies and it's not what the media is telling them, and then all of a sudden they feel like they're being lied to. They feel like the establishment is tricking them, it's trying to stop them, and it makes them bolster their beliefs. Say, you know what, we have to do something about this. And then it creates the meme economy. this underground communication that happens through social media because the media isn't there for them.
Okay, so you have the social justice warriors, and you know, represented in that group definitely would be the LGBT community for sure. Gay community. I've watched the gay community over the last 30 years win enormous victories, and they've been probably the most successful post-war group of the civil rights activists of all the groups, and they are feeling at the moment vulnerable, that they are going to give up some of their gains that they've made. Do you think that's a justified fear?
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course. I think people, you know, if you're scared, you feel a certain way. That's who you are. That's what you feel, and I can't tell you not to feel that way. But I do want to say, considering the other Republican candidates, I know Mike Pence is not great for LGBT rights, but Donald Trump got the RNC to applaud the gay community, and I think that should be I think that they should talk about that. I think a lot of my friends who are LGBTQ don't recognize that Trump is one of the most, maybe even the best candidate for the LGBT community from the Republican side.
Okay, so let me now. As you said, you're a journalist, and you're kind of you're taking the middle road here. You're just trying to take it all in, and you're not, keep your biases at the door and trying to just be a good journalist. So let me pick your brain a little bit. So this has all been very fascinating, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. So 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now, the meme war, as you describe it, the proliferation of social media, the technology with virtual reality is a whole new realm, coming. Where do you see this going, Tim?
Politically?
Socially, culturally, politically, just go with it.
I think a lot of the meme stuff we saw throughout the election will go down a little bit. This very extreme meme economy, the meme wars, they say, they're over. Trump won. But I think we're gonna, it's inverted now. The left is no longer in power. The Democrats are no longer in power. The House, the Senate, right, both, right? Now the presidency, all Republican. I think we're gonna see mass protests. I think, look at the protests the day after Trump was elected. I heard estimates of 50,000 people maybe in New York City, around the country, hundreds of thousands. The left protests what they do. And if you look back to like the battle in Seattle in 1999, if you look back to the Bush inaugural protests, during Obama, we didn't really have that much protest. During Bush, we had that mass anti-Iraq war.
But those protests in 99 were anti-globalization.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? What the Canadian woman in her no logo book? Naomi Klein, right? But Trump's anti-globalization.
And here's the fascinating thing. I think one of the big contributors as to why Trump won is that independents, they're not too concerned with the right and the left politics. They're concerned about, one, globalization, corporatocracy, these kinds of things. I have a lot of followers from Occupy Wall Street. I have a lot of followers from St. Louis protests and Black Lives Matter. And many, I would say, if not most of these people, do not like Hillary Clinton. Many of them were for Bernie. They were extremely angry the DNC stole it. And then they look at Trump, who's anti-globalist, and that fits a lot of the same narrative from these left-leaning protests from, like the battle in Seattle and anti-war. You've got Donald Trump saying, I know he's not the he's not the best candidate when it comes to anti-war, but he's on stage at the debate saying we need cooperation with Russia, while Hillary Clinton is saying, no, we don't. And you've got these, these independents who are...
She became a conspiracy theory.
Oh, absolutely.
A theorist with this idea that Putin is like up in her skirt, examining her. And wasn't true. I'll
say this. Is it likely that foreign governments commit acts of espionage and cyber? Well, of course they are. But I grew up in the hacker community. I've heard a lot about what they said about what Russia was doing. And yes, there is circumstantial evidence, but it's not enough to go on a stage and say Russia did this, and then having Joe Biden go out saying we should retaliate against Russia for doing it.
He bought into the meme.
That's extreme.
Joe became Pepe the Frog. All right, Tim, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacy Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Tim Pool. You can follow us on Twitter at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.